What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in to Late Hoops. Today's video, we're going to be doing the second half of yesterday's video, which is talking about 3 teams that need to succeed during the NBA playoffs. Yesterday's video, we did the Western Conference. Today's video, we're going to be doing the Eastern Conference. We're going to get into all these teams today, but before we do, I just want to remind you guys that we're uploading every single day for the month of March, and we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. So if you're new here and want to support the channel, please be sure to consider hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of this daily NBA content. Without further ado, let's get started talking about the first team in the Eastern Conference that needs to succeed this postseason, the Boston Celtics. For a long time this season, the Celtics looked like they were going to be the 1 seed. It looked like Jason Tatum was an MVP candidate. They looked absolutely amazing with their new acquisitions, and Malcolm Brogdon and Mike Muscala at the deadlines looked really solid. Derek White has stepped it up a lot this year. Robert Williams has been mostly healthy. Joe Mazzulla has been an amazing head coach filling in for Emeka Udoka. But the elephant in the room is that they were so close to winning the NBA Finals last year, and they're kind of coming back with a chip on their shoulder. This season, they're the 2 seed, and if the NBA playoffs were to start today, they'd be going against the Miami Heat, which, if you guys remember correctly, they went to 7 games against that Miami Heat team last year, and both teams, the Celtics, they obviously look a little different, but for the most part they're pretty identical. The Celtics have been in a bit of a slump recently as they're 5-5 in their last 10 games. They still boast an incredible record of 49-22, but I just believe that this season it is a big year for the Boston Celtics to at least make a conference finals or go to the NBA finals. It's going to be really hard with the Milwaukee Bucks looking as strong as they have, but I talked about this a couple times in a couple of videos on this channel when discussing the postseason. I really do think this season it is matchup based. I think teams like the Cavs are maybe going to have an easier time beating a team like the Bucks, whereas the Celtics, they might not have as easy time beating the Bucks. It's going to just be very interesting to see how the Celtics handle this postseason. I think between the Bucks, Sixers, and Celtics, it's pretty much anyone's conference. It's going to be very interesting. Basketball is a game of runs. We all know that. Whoever shows up and shows out is eventually going to be making the NBA Finals. I do want to add really quickly before we move on, though, that this Celtics team is young, and it's not like the expiration date is the end of the season. However, this just seems like one of their best chance to go out and win the NBA Finals, especially considering how open the West is, if you will. I understand the West has a tremendous amount of talent, and that does not mean that they're going to not go down swinging. I just mean that a lot of teams in the Western Conference, like the Phoenix Suns or the Dallas Mavericks or the Memphis Grizzlies or the Los Angeles Clippers or even the Golden State Warriors, a lot of these contenders out west are having some chemistry problems. They've had new acquisitions at the deadline that maybe they haven't became adequate to. Obviously, the Ja Morant situation in Memphis kind of throws a chink in that whole scheme. Nobody knows what the chemistry is going to look like when they all return to the floor together under head coach Taylor Jenkins. There is a lot to, kind of sift through and understand in the Western Conference. But again, the Celtics, really important that you guys at least make the conference finals or NBA finals this season, and hopefully you guys can end up winning it. Second team, the Philadelphia 76ers. Currently, the Sixers are 47-22 as the 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. They're just 2 games behind the Boston Celtics. And if the season ended today, then they would be facing the Brooklyn Nets. Philadelphia has been looking amazing since snapping the Bucks win streak, or 16-game win streak. The 76ers are on a 7-game win streak of their own. They have a great record at home. They have a great record on the road. Joel Embiid is looking to claim that MVP this season. James Harden is flourishing in his new facilitating role. A lot of players like Shake Milton and D'Anthony Melton and Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris may be a little bit more of a role player, but I digress. Other players on this team, like Tyrese Maxey especially, they have been looking absolutely amazing this season. Doc Rivers looks like a competent NBA coach, which we have not seen in a very long time. I think the time is now for the Philadelphia 76ers. Last year, you could see there was still some chemistry development going on in this locker room, and certain players were unhealthy. This season, if the Sixers stay fully healthy, it's very important that they make a big playoff push.
I've heard Joel on Draymond and JJ Redick's podcast, Draymond Green and JJ Redick's podcast, talking about how he feels like he understands what it's like to be a winner and that the 76ers are holding themselves to a higher standard. In my opinion, it's time to prove that. It's time to put the league on notice and say we're not just a regular season team. We're capable of winning postseason games. The 76ers team has been so close to the conference finals a numerous amount of times. If Kawhi missed that shot, obviously, who knows what would have happened. I really do feel like the 76ers are playing with a chip on their shoulder this season, as most people are just writing the Bucks and Celtics in as locks to make the finals in the East. Even going back to the beginning of the season, you guys, I'm sure, remember that James Harden took a more team-friendly contract to kind of say, hey, front office, do what you do best and surround us and, talent that'll help come playoff time. I think everyone on the Sixers team is dedicated to winning, and I'm just really, really excited to see how it turns out going forward. The third and final team we're going to be talking about today, it was originally going to be the Milwaukee Bucks, but I'm going to go with the Miami Heat. A lot of you are probably questioning, why the hell are we talking about the Miami Heat right now? They probably are not going to go far. The reason is, if the Miami Heat were to lose in the first round this season, if the Miami Heat were to get swept in the first round this season, if the Miami Heat saw zero success in this postseason, I do think the Jimmy Butler era is over, which would mean a ton of, headlines and a ton of shaking in this, off season come that time. Why do you say this, I ask? The Miami Heat hedged their bets at the trade deadline. They did not trade anyone. They did not pick anyone up. They did not, even pick up anyone in through the buyout market other than Kevin Love. I think if the Miami Heat were to go out in a not blaze of glory and, like I said, get swept or lose in the first round terribly, maybe a gentleman's sweep, I just think Jimmy Butler might want out of South Beach. And it sounds kind of crazy, but I don't think it's too far-fetched. I think the Miami Heat have a lot to prove this season. They started the season as one of the worst teams in the NBA. They have a pretty good home record, though, however, but on the road, they've been pretty terrible this season. Very interested to see how the Miami Heat play this postseason out. Eric Spoelstra obviously is a wonderful coach. Jimmy Butler is a winner. And then you have a ton of role players in the new acquisition of Kevin Love on this roster. Kyle Lowry is healthy. I'm not really sure how much that's worth anything. But that's all I really have to say about that. I know that was probably kind of a curveball for most of you guys. I was going to say the Bucks, but again, I really don't think they have much to prove. They have won a championship in the last 2 years. And Chris Middleton's been unhealthy most of this season, so I just feel like come postseason, if the Bucks lose, it's not the end of the world, basically is what I'm trying to say. But what do you guys think? Which of these three teams has the most pressure to win or succeed come the postseason? In my opinion, it's probably the Celtics. I was thinking Philadelphia, but after losing in the fashion that they did last year, I think the Celtics got a lot to prove this season. If you guys made it this far, I appreciate your support as always. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay happy, healthy, and blessed. Peace.